Okay guys, so in this video we will be creating a schema for our database. Okay, so schema is nothing but a definition of our database for our tables, like what fields should it contain and what are the data types that it should have and all of that. Okay, so that's why if you work with the SQL database, you would have first configured your schema first, and then you would have like gone and added your data into your database, right? So that's how it is done. So for that, let's go to a server and create a folder called models. Okay, so models are nothing but like schemas, okay, like which we will be creating right now. And the first one which we will be building is the product schema. Okay, so let's name it product schema. Okay, instead of product schema, we can call it product model.js. Okay, so in order to create our schema, we need to bring in mongoose. Okay, so mongoose itself has a function called schema, okay, where we can actually define all of the fields and properties that our particular table, that is the product table, should look like. Okay, so let's import that. Import mongoose. Okay, and now let's define our product schema. So const product schema and set it to mongoose.schema. Okay, so which is a function. Okay, and here we can actually define it in the form of an object. Okay, so the first field will be the name of the product, so I can just give it name. Okay, and the value for it will be which we will define it using type, and the type will be string. Okay, and the next one is we want it to be required. Okay, so a product cannot have a name, so required will be equal to true. So required, and set this to true. Okay, and we are just going to duplicate this a couple of times, well actually 3-4 times. Okay, and we are just going to change the name, and we had to give a comma over here. So next field will be the image. Okay, image, and which will also be a string, where it will actually hold the current path, okay, which will be statically fetched. Okay, we will be having an images folder, so from there we will just specify the particular path, and also it's going to be required. And the next field is going to be the brand. Okay, the brand of our product, and also that will be of type string and required to. Let's give it a comma. And next we are going to have a category. Which category does it belong? Category. Okay, again it's going to have the same fields, and also we will be having a description. Okay, description of the product. And okay, it's description and comma. Okay, and the next will be this one, something called reviews. Okay, so reviews basically it consists of, it itself has a basically it itself has a schema. Okay, so I'll just name it reviews and set this to review schema. Okay, which we will be creating later. Okay, review schema. And after that we will be having rating. Okay, so rating will be a number, not a string. Okay, so type number, and then we want it to be required, and set it to true. And the default value will be 0. Okay, so if there is no value, so if we don't specify any rating, so the default will be stored as 0. Okay, and we can just duplicate this a number of times. Okay, for that I'm using alt and down arrow. Okay, so you too can do that. And next is we are going to have a field of number of reviews, so num reviews. Okay, and same, it is going to be type number and required, and the default will be 0. Okay, and next is going to be the price of the product, so price, and this will be a number, and it is going to be true, and by default it will be 0. Okay, and next is going to be count in stock. Okay, again I can just duplicate this. So count in stock, the number of items that we have in stock, count in stock. Okay, and this is going to be number, and it is required, and the default is 0. All right, so now we are going to set this another one. Okay, that is timestamps, which means whenever a field whenever a record is being created, so it will store when actually it is created with date and time. Okay, so for that we have timestamps, and set that to true. All right, so far so good. We have created the product model. The only thing is we just need to export this. Okay, so we can just go here and write const product. We can just call it product, and using this variable which we'll be exporting, we can do various sorts of operations using this variable. Okay, so products equals mongoose dot model. Okay, and set this to string of product. Okay, so this string will be actually like MongoDB will be setting it, okay, into a database. So this will actually create the table name. Okay, so product and then pass in our product schema. Okay, just like that, and then we can export it using export default, and we can just pass in the products. Okay, so that's done. Well, we can name this product instead of products. Okay, so that would be better. And now it's time to create our review schema that we left blank here. So this review schema is basically an array of reviews. Okay, so one particular product can have multiple reviews, so I have made this in the form of an array. Okay, so let's go ahead and define that. So I'm writing const review schema. Okay, and set this to mongoose dot schema, and set this to an object. So this schema consists of name. Okay, so name, which is of type string, and it's going to be required to true. Okay, and we are going to duplicate this a few more times. Okay, so basically this is the name of the person who created this review. Okay, and then we are going to give it a rating, and set this to a type of number instead of a string. So what rating the user is giving for that particular product, and also we have comment. Okay, so a user will be able to comment on the product. Okay, so comment, which is a type of string, and it is required. Okay, so this is done. So now we can go ahead and create our user schema. So our product is done. So we will be creating three schemas. One is for the product, one is for the user, and one is for the orders. All right, so let's create a file called user model.js. All right, so again, you know the drill. You can just go ahead and do this, and you can just import mongoose. Okay, and oops. Now we can just create our user schema, const user schema. I know this is a little bit boring lecture, I know, but this is how we have to do it. Okay, so we need to create specific fields for our database. Okay, so what fields does it have to contain and all. Okay, so if it is a little boring, you can just go ahead and skip this, and or you can just go to the end of the video and just copy the code. If I suggest you just stick to this, because there might be something new that you might learn. Okay, and by the way, I forgot to mention that this different schemas that we create will be having relationships between other models. Like this user schema will be a part of product schema, where the reviews that we created, so that a particular user can write a review, and we must know which particular user and his details. Okay, that will be defining in the user schema, will actually have in that reviews section, review schema. All right, so let's give the user a name. Okay, name, and we can set this type string, and the user must have a name. Okay, required, and set this to true. All right, so now we can just duplicate this a couple of times, and the email of the user, okay, which will be of type string and required to, and also this should have a unique property. Okay, unique, which means that this like in this complete table, it must only contain unique values. So email must always be unique, right? So that's why we are going to set this value to true. And next we are going to set the password. Okay, later we will be hashing the password. Okay, so we will not be keeping the password as it is in the database, so that would be completely bad practice. So we are going to set this to string, and also it must be required, and also we have a property of is admin, if the user is admin or not, or if it is just a user. Okay, and this type will be boolean. Okay, so it can only have true or false values, and by default it is going to be false. Okay, yeah, by default it's going to be false. And later we in our application we can like once we create our admin section, we can set the user to true or not. Okay, so we can, so that's done. And also we have a field for password. Okay, that we can just do it later. So finally, we can go ahead and create our timestamps so that we can know when the user is being created. Okay, and then set this to true. All right, so that's done, and let's go ahead and export this. So I'm going to create const user equals um, mongoose dot model. Okay, and set this, give this a name of user. Okay, and then pass in the user schema. Okay, and then we are going to export this default. Okay, export default user. Okay, so our user schema is done. We can now go ahead and create a relationship between our schemas. So product model. Okay, inside product model, I'm going to give this value of user. Okay, and set this to a value so that we can know which user has actually created this product and all of his information. Okay, so this creates a like a one to many relationship. Okay, so like just one user can just create one product or many products like that. So I'm going to give it a type. So this is a little different. Okay, type, and set this to mongoose dot schema, and it has a property of types. Okay, and I'm going to set this to object id. Okay, object id. Okay, like that. So, and also it is going to be required. Of course, we want to know who created this product. Required, and set this to true. And also this is the main part. This property refers to which schema does this particular field refer to. Okay, so this has a ref. Okay, and we can just name this user. Okay, okay, so this is referring to this user model that we set this name to. Okay, so that's what it is. And yeah, we are already done. And now let's go ahead and create our order model. So before that, I forgot to like create a user field for the review schema where we can know which user has actually left a review. All right, so we can just create probably we can create at the top. Okay. So we can user and set this to an object of type, again the same. Probably we can just go ahead and copy this. Okay, and then paste it here. Okay, so again it's doing the same thing. It is creating a relationship between the user and the review schema. Right, so now let's go ahead and create our order model. We can just name this order model.js. Okay, again do the same thing, import mongoose, and let's now create our schema of order. Can call this order schema. So inside our order schema, we can define our user so that which user actually created this order. So of type. Okay, again the same thing. We can just go ahead and paste it. Okay, and next is going to be order items. Okay, what are the items that the user has ordered? So order items. Okay, and this is going to be an array. Okay, an array of the products that the user has ordered. So it is going to be an array of objects. Okay, and I am going to give, first thing is the name of the product. Okay, which is of type string. Okay, type string, and it's going to be required. Okay, and I can just copy this down multiple times. Okay, and the quantity I can just call this qty. Okay, and set this to a number, and it's going to be required. And image, the image of the product. Okay, in lowercase. Okay, and again the type is string and required, and the price. Okay, and this is going to be a number, and of course going to be required. And next is the product itself. Okay, product, this should be lowercase, and this is going to be an object. Okay, of basically it's going to create a relationship between this order schema and product schema. Okay, so we can just we can just give it a type of mongoose dot schema dot not schema types dot, schema dot types not object id. Okay, and we can just set this required to true, and this is going to have a reference of the product. Okay, reference, and give this the reference of product schema, and this should be capitalized. All right, like that. So far so good. And let's format this, and let's create the rest of our fields. Next we have shipping address, and set this again to an object which contains the address of the user. Okay, address, and set this type, which is going to be string, of course, and is going to be required. And I'm just copying this down a couple of times. Okay, and this is going, next is going to be the city. Okay, and type string and required postal code, and again it's the same. And finally we have the country of type string and required. All right, so next we have is the payment method. Okay, and just define this of type string, and going to be required. Okay, and next we have is the payment result. Okay, I know guys, this is getting a little boring. Okay, so finally we have to do this. Okay, without models we cannot work with our database. Okay, so please bear with me. So next we have is the payment result. Okay, and give this id. Okay, this will have an object, okay, of id of type string. Okay, and next we have the status, the payment status, whether it is delivered or not delivered, like that. Okay, state, and set this a type to a type of string. And this doesn't have to be required always. Okay, so next we have update time. We can just duplicate this, and then we have the email address. Okay, so there we have it. And then we have the items price. Oops, what am I doing? Okay, items price, and again this is going to be of type number. And it's going to be required, and by default it's going to have a value of 0.0. Okay, so that's the decimal value that we will be sticking to. So default, and it's going to be 0.0. And next we have is the tax price. Yeah, I can actually just go ahead and duplicate this. So, and it's going to be a type of number, and again it's going to have the same fields. And next we have is the shipping price. Yeah. Shipping price, and finally the total price. Okay, so finally we have actually we have two more fields. Now we need to have a paid at field, paid at. Okay, so this is going to have a type of date. Okay, and that's going to be required. All right, so next we have well, actually this does not have to be true, so we can just remove that, because we don't know when the because before this is even created we do not want the paid at field. Okay, so is it delivered? Okay, this is going to be a boolean. Okay, and set the type of boolean, and give it required. Okay, by default it's going to be false. Okay, so and finally we have delivered at, okay, so which will be a date field. Okay, so delivered at, which is going to be of type date. Right, so now we are at the end, and finally let's give this timestamps. Okay. Oops. Okay, so finally now let's finally go and export this. So const order, okay, and set this equal to mongoose dot schema, and we can just set this, give this a name of order, and then pass in the order schema. All right, so finally let's go ahead and export this. So finally we have created all the models for our database. Okay, I know this was a pretty lengthy and very boring process, so that's actually what we have to do this. So if you don't want to type this all out, I'll be probably linking the source code in the description. You can just go ahead and copy and paste it out, and make sure this before you actually copy and paste, make sure how does this actually work, and just have a look and go through it, everything, every field, what does it actually contain, and the relationships that we actually define. All right, so this video got a bit lengthy, so I will just stop here. So in the next video we will be using all of these product user and order schemas, and we will be importing some like some sample data, okay, into our database, so that we can have some products or some users to work with. So let's go ahead and do that.